Hey guys, welcome back to Shelf Life Media. I'm Blake, and today we are doing another classic movie review. Now for October's classic movie review, I've decided to do a classic horror film that I watch every year, no matter what, during the month of October, and that is Wes Craven's Scream. Scream has become one of the most important and most iconic horror films that has ever been released. It's one that has impacted pop culture and is still referenced and loved to this day, and they are still producing movies, with Scream 7 coming out next year. Now for a little background on Wes Craven and Scream. Wes Craven is a horror genius. He's the one who created Freddy Krueger and the Nightmare on Elm Street series, and by the 90s, a lot of horror classics were starting to die out a little bit. Freddy was coming to an end, Jason was coming to an end. Horror at that point was kind of falling down. It wasn't at what it used to be, like especially during the 80s. I would say the 80s was like very peak especially for the slasher genre. You had so many iconic things going on with Jason and Freddy, and just so much going on. By the 90s, things were starting to, get old. They were on like the 10th Friday the 13th. They were wrapping up on the Freddy Krueger story. So, it was just kind of dying at that point. So Wes Craven decided to do something different, and he created a movie that kind of made fun of the horror genre at that point, and some of the like stereotypes of horror films, and kind of made his own thing and made it new, if that makes sense. This was basically a new starting point for the horror genre. I think without Scream, the horror genre may have died completely. Maybe that's a little far saying, but Scream was a major film that really revolutionized the horror genre. It's kind of so genius of Wes Craven to make fun of a lot of the stereotypes in even his own, Nightmare on Elm Street films from the 80s, and then sort of make it serious again. I don't know if the word would be meta, but he basically, like for example, there's a great character in this movie. His name is Randy, and I'll get more into how great the characters are in this movie and pretty much most of the franchise. But Randy is a character in this film who is a horror film nerd. So he knows everything about horror films. He knows all the rules, and that's one of the things that is brought up many times in this film, is the rules of the horror film. One of the rules being never split away from people and never say that you'll be right back, which is a joke that they often do in the film, with characters saying they'll be right back, because that's one of the rules you don't break.
And number 3, never, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!
If you haven't seen Scream, go ahead and go watch it. I will be spoiling stuff in this review. I feel like at this point the movie's been out for so long, and so it's so iconic that if you're watching this channel, you probably should have already seen Scream. But if you haven't, go see it. It's a great movie, one of the best of all time. And then come back and watch this review. But anyways, let's start at the very beginning of the film, where you have one of the most iconic openings to any horror film ever. Now, leading into this movie, Drew Barrymore was all over the posters and the promotional stuff for the film. So going into it, a lot of people believed that Drew Barrymore was going to be a really big part in this film. And what actually ends up happening is she is killed off in like the first 5 minutes. The movie opens with her at her house. She's alone, she's making popcorn, getting ready to watch a movie. And suddenly she gets a call. At first she just thinks it's a joke, some guy from school playing a prank on her. But it soon gets serious really quick when she sees that they have her boyfriend tied up in a chair outside her backyard, and they basically force her to answer questions of horror trivia. For example, like they ask her who the killer in Friday the 13th is. That's actually the one she messes up on, which ends up with them killing her boyfriend because of it. They asked her who the killer is in Friday the 13th. She said Jason Voorhees, but that's actually a trick question that a lot of people get incorrect. it was actually his mother that did the killings in the first one, and therefore she got it wrong, so they end up killing her boyfriend. And it's just a very iconic opening that really, you know, leaves a mark on the audience for what this movie will be, and is just a huge, like, shocking moment, especially for those first 5 minutes. From there, we go into Woodsboro, and we meet the real main characters of the film. We have Neve Campbell, who plays Sidney Prescott and is fantastic in this role. This is one of the best final girls in any horror franchise, maybe even the best, you could argue the best. She's just so good as Sidney Prescott. Every Scream movie with her in it is great. She's like a very important piece to the Scream franchise. Not that the new characters are bad. In my opinion, the Scream franchise has every single film good characters. There's not one Scream film in this franchise that I believe has any bad characters. They're all, for the most part, pretty solid. From there, you meet the rest of the friend group. You got Billy Loomis's friend Stu, and then their other friend Randy, played by Jamie Kennedy. And then later you get introduced to Courtney Cox, who plays like this news reporter named Gail Weathers. And one of the things I love about this film too is it instantly sets up, you know, what has happened in the past with Sidney's mother being raped and killed a year ago, and, you know, Gail Weathers being skeptical on the person that was convicted of the murder. They set that up so well, and of course it pays off in the end when they bring stuff back up, and, you know, a big reveal that happens at the very end. All of the actors in this film that play their parts are so good. You know, Skeet Ulrich does so great as Billy Loomis, and this is where I'll get into more spoilers here. At the end of the film, it's revealed that there isn't just one Ghostface, but there's two. And the two Ghostfaces is in fact Sidney's boyfriend Billy and his friend Stu. Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard play their parts so good in this movie. They are fantastic. They both play like psychotic characters so well, and the interesting thing is they're kind of like two different types of psychotic. Skeet Ulrich as Billy plays a more like serious psychotic, and then you have Matthew Lillard, who's kind of more like a goofy psycho character.
Really call the police?
You bet your sorry ass I did.
My mom and dad are gonna be so mad.
Everything involving them in this film is fantastic. You know, same with Neve Campbell as Sidney, Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers. Oh, and how could I forget? We got David Arquette as Deputy Dewey, one of the most loved characters in all of the horror franchises. He also plays his part so well. I can't believe I forgot about him for a second. But that was because I was focusing on the little, you know, friend group first. But yeah, David Arquette, so great as Deputy Dewey in all the films. He's so loved. I don't know who did the casting for this film, but whoever did was fantastic. I don't know if Wes Craven had a part in that, but if he did, he picked all the parts so well. This film also does a great job at leaving the mystery open of who this killer could be. There's moments multiple times throughout the film where they kind of give hints at certain characters of, you know, maybe this person could be the killer, maybe this person could be the killer. For example, even with their friend Randy, he's like this big horror nerd, and he knows everything about slasher films and scary movies. He knows everything. So some of the, you know, suspicion gets put on him because he knows so much about horror films and slashers that maybe he's the one doing this. They also throw a lot of misdirects out there. There's 2 times during this film where suspicions are put onto Billy Loomis, and both times comes out that he's innocent. The first time is when he's arrested earlier in the film, and then Sidney gets a phone call from Ghostface while he's in jail, so that gives us and the characters the feeling of there's no way that it could be Billy Loomis because she got the phone call while he was in jail. And then another instance is later in the film, right before the big finale. Sidney and Billy are upstairs in the bedroom, and while they're in there, Ghostface comes out from his hiding spot and kills Billy, or at least that's what we think. This film has a fantastic twist ending reveal on who the killers are. Turns out that was all a plan by Billy and Stu. They planned the whole thing. It was pig's blood, it wasn't real blood. One of the best reveals. I mean, watching this for the first time and experiencing that, You know, maybe there's times in the film where you thought maybe they were, or one of them at least was the killer, but there were so many instances where they sort of misdirected you, and then you were like, oh, so there's no way that he can be the killer if Ghostface is calling him. But that's the genius of this twist ending, is there was two the whole time. And that's how Billy was in jail, but Sidney was also getting the phone call, because it was Stu calling her while he was in jail. And speaking of the Ghostface character, a fantastic look, an iconic look with the ghost face. It's really a simple design if you think about it, but it's become one of the most recognizable designs to any horror character. They also do a great job in this film, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, of building some tension between Sidney's character and Gale Weathers. There's tension because Gale is writing this book and she believes that Sidney put the wrong man in prison, but Sidney feels for sure that she put the right guy behind bars. But as the movie goes along, she starts to question that. By the end of the movie, it's revealed that it was Billy Loomis and Stu that were the ones that raped and killed her mother a year ago, and now they're after her. Wes Craven truly is a horror genius. He created two of the most iconic horror villains of all time, Freddy Krueger and Ghostface. And he not only impacted the horror genre once, but twice. To me, that's enough to make Scream an absolute 5 out of 5 classic. This film is just so good. If you haven't seen it, I don't know why you watched all the way to now, because you just got a whole lot spoiled. But if you haven't seen it, still go watch it, even with all these spoilers. It's a fantastic movie, one of the best of all time, and I absolutely love it. I hope I didn't go off too much during this. I tried to keep it sort of in a straight line, you know, but, you know, sometimes you just go off and you start talking about stuff. If you like this review and you like movies and the horror genre, go ahead and give me a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about Scream or the entire Scream franchise, and I'll see you in the next one.